Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Furnace, which is a board game released in 2021, designed by Ivan Lashin and published by Hobby World and Arcane Wonders. This one accommodates 2 to 4 players and takes 30 to 60 minutes to play. Before I get into the review, I just want to give a shout out to kienda.co.uk, a great website where you can buy board games such as Furnace at great prices, and if you use my discount code Kienda5, then you can get £5 off at the checkout if your order comes to £40 plus. But enough of that, let's get into the review. So Furnace is a bidding and engine building style game that's going to look a bit like this when you set up. So you've got a deck of cards here, you've got this round tracker where you've got 4 rounds to get as many points as you can, and the points come in the form of coins. So this is a game where you're trying to get as much money as you can by converting resources into points. And you've got your 4 different types of resources here. You've got these upgrade tokens, you've got these black cubes, you've got these kind of metal bars here, and you've got these yellow cylinders as well. Additionally, you're going to have a bunch of cards laid out in the center of the table depending on the player count. So in a 3-player setup I've got here, you're going to have 7 cards in that middle pool. Each player is going to give a random setup card like this and a random player power, or these capitalist cards, which will give you a game-breaking ability to use throughout the game. Additionally, each player is going to get given a bunch of these bidding discs valued at 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just a marker to show which colour you are. So throughout the game you're trying to acquire these cards not only to add to your engine but also to gain resources. So as you can see here, the anatomy of the card is broken up into 2 parts, or 3 parts ready if you want to include the artwork, where you've got the resources at the top and you've got this little kind of chaining ability at the bottom here. And the way you're going to acquire these cards is of course using your bidding discs. So in player order, you are going to use these discs to try and acquire these cards, or again try to acquire the resources on the card. So your level 4 disc is going to be a lot more powerful than your level 1 disc, so it does go up in order. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use one of your discs to try and claim one of these cards. So let's just say I maybe wanted to gain, I really was set on gaining this card, so I'll put my number 4 there. Now my number 4's on there, I cannot use any of my other discs on that particular card because only 1 colour per player can be on that card. And additionally, my opponent cannot place their 4s on there because I've already claimed that 4 spot, so they'd have to go lower than that. But not only are you trying to acquire the cards here by placing the biggest number on there, because at the moment, again, I'm going to win that card because nobody can outbid me. If the next player along wanted to use one of their discs, like so, they can do, but what it means now, because they're not winning, they're going to get to use the top part of the card in that many times. So at the moment, this player can convert this metal up to 3 times into this drum here. So that's a really cool thing of this game. So not only are you trying to acquire the cards to get the bottom benefit, but you're also trying to use your bid tokens cleverly to get the resources at the top, because resources are just as important as the actual cards themselves. And then maybe the next player might want to, let's just say they were really set on bidding for this card here, like so, and it's going to keep going until players run out of their discs, and then they'll be evaluated. So once all the bids are complete, you're going to resolve these cards from left to right. So let's start with this card here, where as you can see here, the yellow player has got a 1 token on there, so therefore they're going to get 1 of these metal bars and add them to their resource supply. The black player has got a 2 on there, so they are going to get 2 of those iron bars and add them to their resource supply. And as you can see here, the white player has won the card because they've got the highest bid token on them, and therefore they're going to add that card to their engine. And that's going to happen for all the cards there. So again, not winning the card is sometimes great because you get the resources at the top. So once all the cards have been evaluated and you've gained the cards that you've won, you're going to add them to your row of cards, or your engine of cards. And then simultaneously, all the players can choose to run their engine how they see fit. Now, there are 2 different variants on how you can do this. So you can kind of do a free-for-all where you can choose to trigger the cards in any order you want. Or you can play a variation where when you claim a card, you have to put it in a fixed position, and therefore it will have to be resolved from left to right every round, which I think is actually the best way to play. It adds a new kind of layer of depth to the game. But we'll get into that a bit later. So first off, you're going to start with whatever card you want. So this one here, you can see it's going to give me one of these upgrade tokens. So I could take this upgrade token here and add it to my supply. And then these are going to give me options as well. So this one will say I can trade in a black cube and a metal bar to get 4 points. And I can choose to trade in an upgrade token and a black cube in order to flip a card over. Because as you can see here, some of these cards have a number of different things they can do. So this one here, you can convert two bars into one of these drums. But you can see they've got another symbol here, which is kind of just got a silhouette on it, or kind of the outline of a certain symbol. But when you use that upgrade ability, you can choose to flip it over, and therefore use the new ability when it comes to activating this card, which will give me one of these yellow drums, which are they are the best resource. So again, you're going to resolve one card before moving on to the next one. So for this one, I can maybe get an iron bar. This one, I can trade 2 iron bars into a drum and then get another drum. This one here will let me get 2 black cubes, and then I can convert an iron bar and a drum like so by discarding them up to twice, because it's got ×2 on there, to get 7 points. So that's a really useful way to get points. And this one here is going to get me 2 black resources and convert 2 drums or a drum up to twice to convert it into 4 points each. So I can see here it's all about gaining resources and converting resources into others, and then trying to upgrade cards to get better payoffs when you choose to activate those particular cards. As I mentioned during setup, each player is going to have an individual player power with these capitalist cards, which let you do some pretty cool things, if it has to be said. So you can see this character here means that when upgrading cards, which you normally have to spend one of these upgrade tokens for, you can actually choose to spend metal instead, but you have to use all your upgrade tokens before. But this one's obviously a very efficient card to get these more powerful cards out and to get them flipped over to get the bigger benefits. This one here lets you have an additional one of these 2 tokens. So essentially you've got 5 discs going into the round. So again, a very useful tool to have, just getting resources or even winning cards with it. This one here lets you, it says during the auction phase, you may place your discs without following the 2 placement rules. So the values are not summed up. If there's a tie, you get compensated. So that means that if, say, a person bids 3, and let's say the white player had that token, they can also place their 3 on there, which is, of course, normally would be an illegal move. But this one actually is counted as lower as this 3. So it's a very useful tool to get resources and to get these bigger bunches of resources, because this would give me 3 metal bars, which is very useful. This character here says whenever you can get compensated, consider your disc being 1 higher. And this one here says once per production phase, you may pay 2 black cubes to resolve one of your cards again. So if you have a particularly strong conversion card and the resources to exploit that, then you can choose to spend any surplus black cubes to use that card for a second time to again be more and more efficient. And that is essentially all there is to the game. You're going to do the same thing 4 times and then calculate the scores at the end by, of course, calculating the coins, and the person with the most coins at the end of the game is going to be the winner. So let's talk about my thoughts about Furnace. So first off, let's go straight to the key mechanism here. The key mechanism of this bidding system is utterly brilliant. I love it. I find it fascinating. The fact that you have to put these tokens down there and weigh up all the different things you have to do. Because again, you might think, oh, why don't I just collect all the cards, try and claim all the empty cards, and get more cards into my engine? Because sometimes you're going to not have the resources to get those engines going in the first place, so therefore you've just got a dud card in your supply, not doing anything at all. So again, I love that tinkering and that weighting of your bids, just to sneak in there and get the maximum output of the resources at the top. And not only, I know these aren't always resources, sometimes they're conversions. So as I said, these yellow drums here are really quite a rare resource and hard to come by. But if you end up sneaking in there with a 3 bid like so, and doing that 3 times on either of these cards is a really powerful thing to have, which will again contribute to your engine when it comes to this part of the game, and can get these big outputs in terms of getting money and bang for your buck. So yeah, that bidding system is so elegant, so simple, and I love the fact it's not just smash your biggest ones down and hope you win the cards, because that's not what this game is about. It's all about striking that balance of your engine and resources. So the engine building itself, I think, is a nice little puzzle as well. I will say, kind of going back to that variant system, I think that the freedom you have in the standard game in terms of just triggering the cards in any order you want and changing it from round to round and not having a fixed spot for these cards does actually diminish and take away from the gameplay a fair bit. I think more experienced gamers, more kind of economical gamers, and people who like engine building games are going to find a lot of satisfaction of actually mapping these cards out a bit more carefully and using their kind of brain in order to carefully tinker these engines to make sure that this card triggers before this card, so that I have the resources here to get, when it comes to here, I can convert it into points. I think that just adds a whole new dimension to the game, and I'd always consider playing it that way rather than the standard again, free-for-all. But yeah, I love kind of linear engines, and this game does a great job of doing that should you choose to play with that variant, which of course, again, I would always choose to do so. So from a mechanical standpoint, I really can't take anything away from this game. It is really stripped down to the bare bones, just a 2 kind of phase game. Acquire the cards, run your engine. And I love the fact that even the run your engine part can be done simultaneously with all the other players to negate that downtime and that boredom of when it's another player's turn. So you can actually completely do this at your own time, at your own pace, and not worry about what other people are doing, just to keep that engagement and to keep the game ticking along. So yeah, in terms of the speed and the tempo of the game, it does a really great job. Again, because it is so simultaneous, at least for half of the game, a really nice touch there. And I also think the game is remarkably well balanced, considering how asymmetric these player powers are. I've played this game. I've only played it at 3-player count so far, but all the character cards are wildly different. Yet it doesn't seem to have a drastically big impact on the end of the game, but you can use these to your advantage. Of course, this character is going to be great at upgrading. This character is going to be good at just exploiting particular cards and using them again and again. This one lets you break those ties, or kind of put the second token down, but still get the resources for doing so. So these are all really powerful and all worth having. And I like the fact they're also interesting, but again, do strike that balance really well, and it doesn't feel like it's frustrating when a particular player has a particular character and therefore are most likely going to win. So yeah, a really nice job of keeping the player powers balanced. The time investment of the game is spot on for me. This game does take less than an hour to play, which I think is fantastic considering the depth here. It's only 4 rounds, and those rounds are pretty rapid, but as those rounds develop, you are building a stronger and stronger engine. So not only is the actual timestamp of the game good, the actual arc of the game is good as well. It does feel like you're moving forward constantly. And I also like the fact that these 4 rounds are quite a strong constraint, particularly when it relates to your engine, because sometimes you'll have surplus resources at the end of your round, which you wish you'd have had at the start of the round to run through your engine and convert them into points. So it always ties back into what's the most efficient way to place these cards, because again, you don't want to be left with a bunch of resources at the end when you could have used them at the beginning to convert them into points. So I love that all the way it ties together, and the pacing, the tempo, and the arc of the game is pretty much fantastic. The replayability of Furnace is probably one of my only concerns with it. Because this is a kind of a medium lightweight engine building game, there's only so much you can do with your engine. There's only 3 or 4 resources really to play around with, and the way they link together is, again, you've got a glass ceiling on what you can do with those. But I would really love to see an expansion come out for this game to ramp up the complexity. So not only is this going to cater to, again, that medium light market, but also to that real heavy Euro market by ramping up the complexity by another level or 2, because if I can use this system, this bidding system and the engine building system on a more involved resource conversion game, I think this game could really be something truly special, because not many games do a great job of having the potential to inject a lot of depth in it while still staying true to that core bidding system. Whereas this one just has pretty much limitless potential, because that core UI, that pure gameplay system is just so pure and crisp and clean cut, which just, again, you can just add so much new conversions. You could add new resources, new cars, or maybe even like three level cars where you can upgrade them 3 times or something. So there's so much potential here in what you can do, and I'd just love to see an expansion come out to broaden the horizons here, because I do feel somewhat this game does hamstring itself, or is somewhat hamstrung by its own limitations, and it really could go, and again, another step or 2 further. The interaction in this game is pivotal. You can't do anything without considering what the other people are doing. As you'd expect with all kind of bidding games, if people sneak in there with a 4, you're pretty much locked out. But are you going to jump in there with a 3 quickly to get the most resources? So everything you're doing is depending on the other people, and prioritizing things to get your big tokens down to lock people out of taking the cards that you want is equally as important as getting your resources in the first place. So everything you do is meaningful, and you can't ignore what other people are doing, because that passive interaction is just embedded into the game. And from a production standpoint, I think the aesthetics of the game is really nice. I mean, the artwork of all the buildings and the cards look fantastic. It is certainly very well polished and professionally done. I think the artwork is pretty spectacular, to be honest. All the characters look pretty good. The actual card quality themselves, these are all linen finished, so again, really high production quality and standard. The bidding tokens are these big chunky wooden pieces, and I like the way that these are all scaled, so you know that the bigger tokens, or you can just look at a glance and see what the bigger tokens are, and they fit together quite nicely, so you can just see at a glance who's going to win that bid. The resource tokens, they made somewhat of an effort here to be different shapes and sizes. So yeah, I've got no issues with the production at all, considering this is actually a relatively affordable game. Scalability, I think I would always play this with 3 or 4 players. There is a 2-player variant where you use a dummy player using a dice, and then you roll that die and add them onto different spots and things, just to act as a bit of a blocker and a passive nuisance. But I think you do need that player interaction to really make it shine, so therefore I'd probably always play this at 3 or 4 players. So overall, Furnace was actually one of the games that I've been most looking forward to for a long time. I love engine building, I love bidding, so naturally I was excited for this one because it has everything I like about it. And I will say I am really impressed with it. You know, expectations were high, and this one has certainly lived up to those expectations. I've got really nothing bad or negative to say about the design itself. It's so pure, it's so clean, it's fun, it's interactive, it's quick. The engine building is fun, particularly if you play with that strict, locked-in location variant. And yeah, it really is a really well ironed and polished design. Again, my one concern with the game is the fact that it has, held the reins back a bit too much, where I would have liked to have seen it just completely be more ambitious and add more resources, more conversions, more cars, more card abilities into the game, just to really make it complex and just crunchy. This game is fine as it is. It still works exceedingly well, and there is a lot of replay value in it. But just to take it up to that next tier, that best of the best bracket, I would love to see a module or an expansion just to take it to that level. So yeah, regardless of that, I still think this is a really fun game. It promises on what it delivers. It's pretty versatile on who you can play this with. Relatively, Gateway Plus gamers could enjoy this one because, again, the rule set themselves are rather simple, but still there's enough going on here to satisfy more experienced gamers. These kind of crisp designs without any fiddliness or bloat tend to stand the test of time pretty well, and this one certainly stays true to that. So I think people will still be talking about Furnace in 3, 4, 5 years to come, because it is a really solid, well polished and well-rounded design. So yeah, I like this one. Has everything I like about board games in a very succinct experience, and therefore I can't do anything but recommend this one pretty strongly. So this one gets my shield of quality. I think if you like bidding games, if you like engine building games, this is pretty much a shoo-in, and you can really use this one as a gateway tool to get gamers into those more heavy, crunchier designs. But again, I just wish there was a little bit more here just to take it into that elite tier, because this one certainly could do that. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you found it useful or at least somewhat entertaining, then please hit like and consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Additionally, if you wish to support the show, because I am a one-man operation and I don't get any support from publishers, then please consider backing on Patreon at patreon.com/chairman of the board, where you can back for as little as £2 per month. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.